All right. Welcome to today's episode on personality typing with Habib. I am typing Rachel Zegler today. And yeah, so the first thing we do is we say that there's no type accuracy guarantee, although I do my best. So, first, we do a little bit of a recap on the previous episode, which was Javier Bardem in this case. And then we look at different clips of Rachel Zegler. We try to ascertain what is her personality type, possibly, and that might give us insight into our own type and our own understanding of how brains work, how personality works, and how different people think differently. So, and then we end with a final guess on what is Rachel Zegler's type, and then we look at what is going to be on the next episode in 2 weeks. So this is a bi-weekly series that I'm doing, and so yeah, feel free to check out the other episodes. Without further ado, let's take a look at Javier Bardem. He is a double masculine FESC, play consume blast, sleep blast number 4. Now his actual type might be a little different, like I said, but I'm sticking with my guess from the previous couple weeks. I do see it's possible. It's very possible for him to be SEFE, and it's also possible for him to have a different animal stack, maybe play, consume, sleep, maybe something else. But this is as much as I was seeing, and I definitely see the social 4. He's a very friendly, lovable person, and not that other people are not, but he's, down with the people and has no trouble relating with people and no trouble relating with the kind of the FESE feelings and the animalistic energy that all people have, the sensory and the feeling, He's not so much in his own head, despite what his acting can show. Yeah, so I'm sticking with that guess, and feel free to check out that episode. Definitely enjoyed typing him. So I definitely did not update the top of this, but first impression of Rachel Zegler. Yeah, the text on top is not accurate, but she reminded me of some ESFPs, specifically Candace Owens and Mila Kunis. A little bit of Anya Taylor-Joy in the eyes. There's something going on there. As well as the ESTP Michelle Rodriguez, who is a little bit, both of these women down here have masculine sensing, and it's very hard for me to tell, the sexual modalities, feminine versus masculine, and that's, you have all kinds of different women out there. So, but I definitely had a strong bias for some kind of either ESFP or ESTP for Rachel Zegler. And with, just keeping my eye out in case that was not the case. So without further ado, let's get into the actual clips, which is the meat of the episode. Is we try to analyze from the speech patterns and the behavioral patterns what a person's personality type is. And so first we're going to get to know Rachel with this interview that is just about, her acting career. She is an actress. So let's take a look.
I've got a dice tower behind me, and I give you 3 rolls on the tower, and whatever questions I roll for you, that's where we start.
Cool.
This one's role swap. If you had the opportunity to swap roles with any Hunger Games actor in any of the films, who would you choose and why?
Ooh, that's hard. Because I want to say Elizabeth Banks as Effie, but I also don't want to spend so much time in the chair every day, because that's hard. So I'm going to go with Lenny Kravitz as Cinna, because I still get to be fabulous, but I don't think I have to spend 4 or 5 hours in the makeup chair.
I'm just really impressed by how well thought out that answer was.
It's just, I remember watching Hunter and Tom, and I also had a wig every day on Hunger Games, so it took me a little bit longer to get ready, but never as long as it took Hunter. And she's so beautiful and fabulous in this movie, and she had to bleach her eyebrows and do all the things, and I was like, good, God be with you, but couldn't be me.
here is an acting specific question for you. This is called favorite, least favorite. What is your absolute favorite part of the acting process? Like things like putting your costume on for the first time, stepping on set, rehearsing. But then I also kind of want the opposite, not necessarily your least favorite, but a part of the process where you still see room to grow for yourself and you're eager to tackle that.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think my favorite is meeting my crew that you're going to kind of go on this journey with for the next couple months, depending on what film you're on. Could be weeks, could be months. They become kind of the closest people in your time on a project. I have a really wonderful camera operator that I met on Hunger Games that I adore, Dave Thompson, who, all of my camera operators kind of become my best friends because they're your allies on set. And therefore, it's just kind of like, that's my favorite part, is getting to meet those people and get to know their stories and where they come from, their families, why they do this, do they like it? And I have a really good time with them. With least favorite, honestly, it's like on Hunger Games, I had to be very, very sweaty and dirty. And I am not good at the texture stuff on my hands, on my face. And I feel very bratty about it, where I'm like during lunch, like secretly washing my hands and like secretly getting dirt off.
All right, so there's actually a lot there, and you can kind of type her based on just that first clip. But you can see a little bit of, I was hinting at looking at DI versus DE, self versus tribe, organize versus gather. You can kind of get a hint of those, but without getting into the actual like MBTI personality type right away, looking at the social type, you can already see a little bit of flex. At least that's what I'm seeing. And what that is like she's not trying to get her hands dirty. She is paying attention to the cameras. And we're going to see a little bit of that just to kind of get that out of the way, is that the flex side of things. But you can also get a feel of, where she is in terms of gathering and organizing. Like, is she noticing the variety of things, or is she organizing everything, have a plan ahead of time? Or is she, from the self tribe perspective, is she, deferring to others a lot more, or is she looking at her own perspective? So in this clip, we're going to look a little bit. So there's a little later on. We're going to see as if she has flex or friends. So this is the social type 1 or 4, like which side she leans on, just because I kind of want to get this part out of the way so you can kind of tell like, hey, this person is really trying very hard. So, because that kind of affects how you're listening. So if you already know that she's, a social type 1, kind of get that out of the way so you could pay attention to all the other coins, all the other personality traits. So let's take a look here.
Build on the idea of learning by experience. I love asking this question. What is a seemingly silly question about the way that movies are made that you were afraid to ask on the West Side Story set that you would encourage more new actors to have the courage to ask?
You should. Okay, so it sounds really silly, but you should ask where, like, what can you see? This is a question I ask really my camera operators, but also your focus operators are your best friends on set. I remember on Snow White, I had a focus operator named Ollie. So awesome. And it was my first like number 1 on the call sheet. It was a very like crazy experience for me, being on set every day, working all day, every day, doing everything. So a lot of it was, I know how to give you the take that you want. I think at least you got to go in with that confidence. But I got to know what the camera is actually looking at, because is it further away? Do I have to do more on my face? You have to imagine that your face is going to be blown up on a big screen that people are going to be sitting in the front row for. On West Side Story, it was something that I didn't really know to ask yet. And also I was not experienced in screen acting at all. So even just the micro movement of an eyebrow is a gigantic expression when you're thinking about it on an IMAX screen. So I really had to learn how to control my face in a way. I had Janine Tesori, a beloved Broadway composer.
Yeah. So it's great that she's trying to give this lesson of, how you can appear on camera, I got to do the thing. Yeah. And, Yeah, I mean, that's which type of person is concerned about that. Now it's okay. I mean, that is what the job is. I mean, anyone can really talk about this, but I think that that is what she jumps to as the thing to give advice on. There's something there, you definitely have to get a lot more data points, but from what I'm seeing here is that it is image conscious, conscious of like, how am I coming off? And yeah, there could be something like kind of visual there, but it could really just be flex. Like I want to know where I need to try, because a lot of her acting or just behavior is from trying, and that's what Flex is doing. Flex is really putting in a lot of effort into like one specific goal, and it is very effortful. It's not easy. It's not this easy flowy movement of like, I'm just being me, it's actually trying to do work. Flex is putting in a lot of work, and so that's what I'm seeing. But yeah, that was just to get a baseline. I think that was good. We didn't dig into what her 16 type is yet, but I'm gonna dig into it here and I'm giving this hint, about extroverted sensing, because it is kind of going to be a big deal, and it's a great opportunity to see what is extroverted sensing doing. How is it different from extroverted intuition? And then just like, what is it capable of doing? And how does it see variety? So we're going to see how, Andrew Garfield here is an INTJ, NI first. So they kind of are playing opposites here. Let's take a look.
I know that you have felt a similar responsibility, and maybe even a deeper responsibility, and you've talked about it in interviews about how you feel a good weight, it seems, for your community, for the Latin community.
I think it depends sometimes, because the conversation can turn really nasty really fast when you're talking about representation, because it's such a multi-dimensional conversation, because it not only is dependent on what generation you're talking to, what their relationship to their own identity is. My dad is white. He's an American man. His family has been in the United States for many, 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 many years. And my mom is Colombian, who, she was born here. And because I wasn't born in Colombia, people think that strips me of that Colombian identity, which could not be further from the truth.
Sure.
I have had the opportunity to talk about the complex identity of being a Latin American woman, where I fall racially on the spectrum as a white Latina, the privilege that I hold in this industry, where I'm considered more palatable to a lot of audiences and to, people at the heads of these production companies that are casting and greenlighting movies and stories. So it's been really awesome to be able to talk about that very candidly and on such a huge stage, and have people actually listen and have commentary and want to continue that conversation. It's a beautiful thing. And I feel like I've gotten to educate as well as learn. And so what more could you possibly want from something? And a lot of that, I really do, I credit Tony Kushner with so much of that conversation, because a lot of those questions stem from how Maria has been expanded from this very black and white, virginal, submissive character. She makes decisions, but they're not really for herself. They're for the men in her life involved and in mind. This time around, she's such an 18-year-old girl who is thinking she's doing the best for herself because she thinks she knows way more than she actually knows, which we've all been there. I was 18 when I filmed the damn thing. I thought I knew everything about the world, and I didn't know anything. I still don't know much. But then also
Yeah, that's a good place to end that for now, because I think I got the point across here, where it's extroverted sensing, in that what she is on the opposite end of is, hey, people are just taking this role or this category and just making it black and white, when there's a lot more nuance about it. And for example, she, claims her Colombian heritage as, hey, I am a Latina person, and that's something that she has to fight for, because people just want to categorize her, hey, but your dad is white, so you're white. It's like, hey, you're not this enough. And she's like, hey, you got to look at the nuance. We can't just do black and white. We got to have the nuance. And she's educating. She's, speaking with her community, speaking with other audience members and people, and she's trying to show and educate people on, like, hey, there's a nuance here that we all need to learn, because when you're talking about a Latino person, there's so many different flavors, so many different elements of the variety. And this is what extroverted sensing is really trying to do. And that is preaching from a savior position, or she has this higher and she has a lot more confidence when speaking about this, when speaking about the nuance of the sensory or of the category. Like, you can't just put me in a box, that's like very against organizing and very pro variety, pro gathering. So that was a really great clip. I am going to leave that in the description as well, so you can follow up on anything else if you really want to. But here we're going to move on to a funnier clip. This is just observer humor, and we're looking at the things, like wine or whatnot. And I'm going to be looking at two different sections here. She's going to be commenting on things, and then is she a decider or observer? Does she care more about the people or the things? You're going to see very quickly she's probably an observer. I'll just say it because I don't know how long you want to try guessing that.
We have some journals here, and I'm a sucker for a good journal. I can't express to you how many times I've bought a notebook and not used it because it was cool and pretty. Does that mean I know which one's more expensive? Absolutely not. Let's start with this one. It says journal, just in case you didn't know what it was. This is just a standard lined journal, but it's got some gold on the edges of the pages and a built-in bookmark, which is pretty cool. I don't know. This one's thicker, but also the pleather is puffier, which is making me think maybe it's not. But there's also stitching on it that's very, very nice. We've got a pretty tree on it. That's cool.
Which journal is giving Shakespeare?
Oh, which journal is giving Shakespeare? I am an expert. I feel like this one's giving more.
Okay, so she is guessing which one is more expensive. I didn't mention that. But yeah, so someone's helping her out, and she's going to take the help.
Shakespeare, because I don't think Shakespeare would really care about whether or not it was sunny, partly cloudy, or rainy in his journal entries. But what do I know? But the bookmark is cooler, and it also has this kind of bookmark as well, and a place to put the date and the day of the week. But I don't know, something about the quality of this one is, to me, giving more expensive. I'm going to go with this one. Guys, my ego is getting bigger by the minute. This is insane. Oh no, I'm not good at this. Okay.
All right, yeah. So basically there, you could see that she has an eye for quality a little bit. So she's not social too necessarily, at least that she's talking about it. Well, it's not a slam dunk, but anyway, but she's willing to accept help. And that's kind of one of the things that, self-above tribe people do is they accept help from others, but you may not hear about it. You may not, I don't know, but I don't want to put too much fire on that because there's going to be some double deciding in this upcoming clip, this part. And yeah, I think it'll also get pretty observery. So let's take a look.
Ooh, I think this is where I get stumped. I'm going to go with this one. Yes! I needed to get one wrong so you guys know that I was not bluffing. That's crazy because this one is such better material.
That's the double deciding part.
Hey, if you're out there, price doesn't matter. This is gonna stump me. Okay, so we've got a really cool design on the actual lipstick. Very cool, which I love. And also the bottle is, you would call it a bottle? Do you call this a bottle, Misha? A tube. There we go, we're learning things. A tube. It's heavy and feels expensive. This is also heavy and feels expensive. But we've got some smudging on the outside of this one. And what are we paying for, friends? I hope nobody can tell what this is because I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. But I think it's this one. Yeah. Oh no! I worked on a movie called The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and my director, Francis Lawrence, is an actual sommelier and could tell you everything you could possibly need to know about wine. I retained none of it. I think it's all BS. I'm like, it is all grape juice. You're all ridiculous. And I also don't really drink that much, so I'm nervous. Let's go for it. It's 10.
Okay, yeah. She does fine in the rest of it. And but basically with the wine, she doesn't think it's real, where have we heard that before? It's like there can actually be a difference between these, it's a very observer way of talking, and it's a big deal and it's funny. But yeah, we can laugh about the things. So that was good. It really nailed some things down there, and we can move on. And this is the last clip. This is the last video. But basically, just a cross check to see, hey, if Habib is claiming, this extroverted sensing thing, can we see how the introverted intuition looks on? That would be fourth in that case. And how does that, I don't want to really call it demon NI, but I would just say that it's harder and it takes longer to get there. And, that can leave it vulnerable. When you take a long time to do something, then it can get attacked from the outside or the inside. You can make it into a dark narrative, or other people can try to make your narrative dark. So, it's multiple fronts. You're defending your intuition or your belief system on your worldview. Let's take a look at this. So both of these were Disney princesses. One of them was the Little Mermaid and the other one was Snow White. So let's take a look.
Because it's hard being women under the spotlight. People are so critical and just say anything that they would never say to your face.
No.
So yeah, how has that been for you, being able to navigate it?
Choosing thankfulness and gratefulness is choosing peace. And as much as you'd like to remind people verbally that being in the spotlight doesn't absolve you of your humanity, that you're allowed to have human moments.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily do what you want it to do, and it fuels them more.
Yes, exactly.
And so just as you said, it's like choosing to be present and know that they're probably just having a really hard day.
Yes.
And I am putting out a movie.
Amen. That's right.
And I feel so thankful for those moments because it started to make me feel like solid Teflon.
Yes.
That it can't really, that nothing can hurt anymore because they've said the worst that can be said. And you just kind of say, thank you so much for this. I have a lot of love in my life.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful.
Amen.
And we get to do our work and have that speak for itself instead, which is exactly what you've done. And
you too. I love the saying, my godmom says it a lot. You throw stones and I'll build a bridge out of them. Isn't that nice?
That is nice.
I love
no,
that.
It's true though.
Yeah.
Because we're making things that make people connect with one another. And there are people out there who say things that make people want to not come together.
Yes.
That make people want to fight. And it's just not worth the time and energy.
All right. Yeah. So we're moving on right there. But basically what that clip was about is the introverted intuition, the narrative is building up and she's trying to protect it. And it's because she is double deciding, has people who love her in her life, that she's able to overcome the darkness that's trying to seep into her world. And so that's a very good, cross check on extroverted sensing versus introverted intuition. Because if she had it higher up, she would be able to, put down belief systems a little stronger and be able to stand on that more. But she needs to rely on other people lifting her up, which is good, which is a way to get there. But I know, because I'm an ESFP too, it's I've got extroverted sensing first and introverted intuition last as well. And it is a very sensitive thing. And for people out there, you got to protect yourself, your introverted world, especially if you're extroverted. Yeah. So anyway, let's narrow down the guess. I did come to this slide a little earlier than I intended, but yes. So the first narrow down is extroverted sensing. I've been saying it, but in the community, people who type, we can see this much pretty quickly on some people. Like there are a lot of extroverted sensing people out there. So when we know it's one of these, we can kind of jump here pretty quick. But the rest is the hard part, that's the hard part. she's somewhere in here, and then after this, it can be difficult. We can lose her. Like, even with the next move, I'm going to go with play, and that'll eliminate these two, which, she could be a sneaky, consume, sleep, play. It's tough. And that's why I say I don't really guarantee type accuracy. So, yeah, without further ado, let's continue narrowing down the guess. So this much, I already talked about. But yeah, I'm seeing play above sleep. I'm seeing that she is having a harder time protecting that inner world, that inner narrative. She's doing it. She's accomplishing that. And so it's possible, she could be consume, sleep, play. But, at least as I'm going out on a limb here, I'm making the guess that she is more playful. She is bringing people in. She's aware of the extroverted world. She's aware of the Latin community. She's aware of like all these different kinds of people. So I'm going to go with play. That would be a skibby ESXP at this point. So either ESFP or ESTP. Now that's another thing to watch out for is, and I didn't prove it in these clips, whether she has FI or TI, which axis she's on. So the final narrow down, I just went with self above tribe and, extroverted or information dominant. She is trying to educate people. She is trying to blast or share the information that she has, at least from what I'm seeing. Now I could, be seeing just one part of her, but yeah, that's as far as I'm going right now. She could be a sneaky, consume, play, sleep there, but I'm going with consume, play, blast. And my final guess, or at least my first round of guessing, it is double feminine, SEFI, consume, play, blast, sleep, blast, number 1. Now, for the modalities, I could see something else. I was seeing a lot of Candace Owens. And so this is kind of my alternate guess, but I'm very, hesitant to just slam down on MF because she's like a Disney princess. Who knows? She could be FM. She could be FF. So that's why my final guess is going to be double feminine. But, as I was saying earlier, there is a chance she might be masculine sensory. She might be, she might have different sexual modalities. But looking at the big picture of her type, like I'm seeing an ESFP, but an extroverted one, this is somewhat close to like Dolly Parton or similar, Candace Owens, right? And I'm seeing social type 1, so she is like trying to make something of herself, but on the other side of that, there's some like insecurity but she's trying to achieve something, so there's a lot going on there. And yeah, Disney princess would make sense a lot for this kind of type. And I think this is somewhat close to what her true type is, whatever that may be. But yeah, I feel good about this, and I'll let you know if there's any modifications on that. That's why we do the recaps, and I might have to do a giant recap and see what other types may have changed over time. But yeah, so in 2 weeks, so every 2 weeks I do these typings. The next 2 weeks is going to be on Greta Thunberg, who is an activist for a number of things, a number of topics, originally starting out with climate change, and then that led her to different things and seeing a lot more on the geopolitics front. But yeah, Greta Thunberg is really cool. She's very intelligent, started out very young, a lot more eloquent than certain political leaders and all that. I was going to do another actress, but it's time. I think it's time, 2026. Let's get Greta Thunberg typed. I'm curious what your guess for her is going to be. She's accomplished so much at such a young age. I just wish her safety and security because she's doing a lot of brave things. And she has a lot of courage. Someone good to learn from for sure. But yeah, so that's going to be in 2 weeks, January 30th. Now, I might be off by one day if I have scheduling issues, but I'm going to aim for that Friday, January 30th. But thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. And yeah, watch the other episodes. See ya.